So, podcast 10. I was telling Tyler right before the podcast, there's this
Yeah, you're telling me.
psychological effect that once you learn something or start to notice something, like if you learn a new word or you buy a new car, you start to see that car everywhere and you start to hear that word everywhere. It's because it's something you haven't paid attention to before, and once it's in the recesses of your mind, you start to pay attention to it.
That's like if you say you want to see a blue car on the highway, you're gonna find a blue car. I've heard that analogy before of like, it's like a life analogy about if you are always like seeking the bad, you're always gonna find the bad. Opposed to like if you like say like, oh, everything's good, like you're just always gonna be confronted with good things.
I like that.
Yeah, have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that applies to your mindset too. Right?
A little bit, I guess. Yeah, I would like to say so.
That's like that's why gratitude affirmations work so well with improving your mental health, because it's what you pay attention to. Gratitude,
like journals and stuff.
Occasionally, it's not a daily habit. I do it maybe like a couple times a year.
Yeah,
it occurs to me.
I always feel like it can be forceful sometimes. Like if you're just like forcing gratitude down your throat.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like 10 gratitudes per day and it has to be new every day, that's maybe a little too much. It's definitely for someone who like is not grateful for the life. It's better to do that than not.
I think there's a lot of value in like being grateful for like the really little things, like you say. Like some days I'll wake up and be like, I'm so grateful I can stand up, or I can like super like menial things. Or when you ever get sick and you're like, wow, like you can't breathe or something very well, or like your nose is stuffy. Like, wow, I wish I would appreciate when my nose wasn't stuffy.
Yeah, that
makes sense.
The only thing you want when you're sick is to not be sick. But as soon as you're
you just forget about it.
As soon as you're healthy, you want 10 million things instead of that one thing.
Yeah, I know.
So honestly, you're kind of happy when you're sick.
It's pretty shitty that works.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we're talking about books, our favorite books we want to dive into.
Top 3 as of recently. What are your ones that have been most impactful?
Yeah. And I've read quite a bit. I think there's like a stigma towards reading. I feel like when I was like growing up, like
really
no one would really read.
Everyone just lived.
I always thought it was so lame to read for some reason, and then I just got into it like about a year ago, and I think it's a great habit, honestly.
Would you say you only started seriously reading like religiously like a year ago?
Probably. Okay. Dude, there was a time where I didn't read a book front to back in like years.
Really?
Yeah, there was a long period of my life where like, I would just never read.
Yeah, I wouldn't read much when I was younger. I think like high school, like near the end of high school, I started reading more.
What'd you read?
Well, I first started reading because my dad was like, you got to take the SAT eventually, right? And I was always I took a practice test. I was always really good at math. So math is like,
of course,
Asian talents.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even the best at math. I was just better at math and verbal.
Asian talents.
And they were like, and I was like, how do I get better at the SAT? And they're like, maybe you should read more books,
Yeah.
So like I started reading like whatever.
So you just started reading.
And then started liking it, like whatever, fiction, nonfiction.
Dude, I always thought people were like bullshitting when they said they like to read.
But you get it.
I kind of like made myself like to read, I think.
You can develop your habit. Because you can make yourself like reading if you start reading.
I was in like this YouTube wormhole where I was just seeing these like really successful people being like, oh, you need to like meditate every day and read every day. Which is like, there's truth to that, but also it's kind of a lot. It's overwhelming.
It's a complicated subject. I was like reading this the other day, a quote. It was like, too much reading is like, it's just self-placating to an extent, meaning like.
What?
Self-placating. Like it's just make yourself feel better. I have another word in mind, but like the point is like reading certain books is good for you, but you're not gonna. If you read 1,000 books, there's diminishing returns. Like at a certain point, you got to start implementing the things that books are telling you to do and implementing the life lessons.
A lot of people say that self-help books are bullshit because you aren't actually like. A lot of them are the same thing. Like I've read like 4 or 5 of them, and a lot of them just aren't the same. Which is why the books I want to talk about, I feel like have actually applied in my life and have like made a difference. So I'll just tell you right now, my favorite book is Chop Wood, Carry Water, which my friend's dad put me on this book, and it's a super easy read. And it's just like really simple lessons on the process of like loving what you're doing and becoming great at it. And there's just like some like really, they're simple but really effective, like when to know like when to hype yourself up versus when to like calm yourself down, or focusing on like principles instead of feelings. Focusing on like the journey rather than the result, the direct result, like the illusion of partially controllable goals. All these like really great like insights on life, but in like 3 or 4 pages of a simple story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you should look into it. And then another one I have is The Untethered Soul, which I'm still kind of pushing through a little bit right now, and a lot of it's kind of like way too like spiritual for my sense. Like even for me, like it's a little too introspective. But it talks a lot about like your energy level, your heart is a big thing involved. Like letting go of circumstances outside of your control, like how to find yourself. A lot of like these really crazy questions that I'm still trying to figure out. You know what I mean? Like everyone is. And then the third one is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Nice.
Yeah, and I just really like his story is just insane. He's just a badass dude.
Just gives you the mentality.
Yeah.
To be a badass.
D Goggins.
Cool.
Hardo.
Very cool. So like my top 3, these will probably change over time, but as of now, like the 3 that comes to my head, the first one is The Power of Now by far. I read this freshman year, and it's probably one of the most impactful books I've read. A lot
Who's
of
that by?
Eckhart Tolle or
Okay.
Eckhart Tolle. I'm not sure.
I've heard that one a lot. Never actually got into it.
Stefano talked about it. Like
That's right. Yeah, I did talk about it.
Like Oprah talked about it. He's like this crazy guy. Like he was homeless. He was like a professor. Like he's like super well read, whatever. But then at one point he became homeless, and he just sat on a park bench for like years, and he was super happy. You know, it's kind of like spiritual monk-ish, like Buddhist type stuff. But the point is, he was super happy. The philosophy is you focus on the now. Like you don't think about yesterday, you don't think about tomorrow. And it sounds like be present sounds like such a catch-all phrase, but it's super practical in the sense like everything you're like worrying about. You know, I won't get that job interview. That's thinking about tomorrow. Thinking about like how you don't compare up to someone. That's thinking about the past. You know, like every problem in your life that's self-induced comes from you thinking about the past or future. So the more I think about it over the years, the more I realize how all-encompassing this philosophy is.
That's so sick.
If you were just super present, you would have not a single problem in your like relationship problems. That's like yesterday's problem. That's like a second ago. Right now we're in the podcast. Right now you don't have a relationship problem.
Right.
In this moment, there's air breathing in your lungs. You shouldn't be feeling a negative emotion about.
Was he on drugs?
No.
He was just homeless?
He was just homeless.
Wow.
Just like super, and he was super blissful, super happy.
Dude, I've thought about that a lot. Like, there's all these people near, like, on Figueroa that are riding their bikes, and all they do is like bump music and ride down the street, listening to, like, I don't know, like
cracked out,
and they look super happy. And like, I'm going to class, like, fucking stressed out. I'm like, dude, these guys got it going.
That's a little
like,
different.
Maybe I should be this cracked out guy on a bike.
That's a little different because they're literally on drugs, and the second the drug fades away, they're in a deep.
I mean, some of them aren't on drugs. There's no way all of them are on drugs.
I wouldn't say Eckhart Tolle is the typical homeless person.
I'm talking about like that biker gang that's always like popping wheelies on Fig. Like, those guys are just like in the moment,
right?
Chilling out on bikes.
Yeah, I mean, it's very.
They probably make no money. Probably don't have jobs.
I think it explains a lot of why some people are happier than others, despite how little or how much they have. It's all about how you think about yourself and like how much worry you have.
So what were his lessons from being homeless? Besides,
you
like,
need.
Was he struggling?
You need exactly nothing to be happy. You need water, food, air, and
that's crazy. That's so crazy.
Because what is unhappiness? Unhappiness is a thought, right? And when your brain is empty, like meditating, like having zero thoughts, all you feel is the air blowing on your face in the park, the sunshine beaming on your skin.
Right.
It's warmth. Like that's all happiness is. Like you're not unhappy because you're not thinking about anything that's unhappy.
Yeah.
You have no negative emotions whatsoever because you have no thoughts whatsoever. You know?
Yeah.
So you just feel very alive and present and you feel the physical sensations of everything, and it's
pretty sick.
That's pretty peaceful. You know? It's serotonin firing. Right
I think there's a balance to it though. Like you can't just be like completely complacent in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's not homeless anymore. He's like going around giving lectures. He's making money.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, he's doing well. So
he learned something from it.
Like I said, it's practical. Like,
yeah.
Are you worrying about anything? Are you having self-doubts? Thoughts. These are just thoughts. Anything
right.
holding you back is yourself.
That's what this book talks about, Untethered Soul, like distinguishing your thoughts between who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the thoughts that pop through your head, that doesn't define you. It's like a second voice almost.
Right.
Like you're your consciousness, like you're your internal being, and all these thoughts from your brain are just like secondary like voices.
That's kind of This Untethered Soul is pretty similar to Power Now. Like you said, maybe this one's more spiritual.
This is way more spiritual.
But if you can harness,
like it's a little too spiritual.
Yeah, but if you can harness it in a practical way, like it solves everyone's problems.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I mean it definitely could. What's your other one?
That The Power Now is by far my favorite one because how all encompassing it is. But second one is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Pretty like generic.
Similar vibe, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty generic.
I
like
read a synopsis on it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my synopsis, and you can give me the real rundown.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, basically, do what you want to do because no one else actually watching you, and everyone's so focused on themselves and what they're doing, they actually don't care what you're doing at all.
Yeah.
Is that pretty?
Yeah.
On par. Okay.
Pretty much.
I didn't read the book.
Pretty much. The point is, stop giving a fuck about little things, which is pretty much everything in your life.
Right.
Because, it's all. It's got a little bit of Buddhist tyings.
Is it like told through a story?
No, it's just like
lessons.
Like step one, like don't give a shit. Step two, like go out and do things. Whatever. I can't remember the exact.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to The Power of Knowledge, which is why I like it. It's more like straight to the point, like practical. But the point is. Was
there any like huge like story he even like articulated throughout?
It's hard to
express that.
He had a huge thing growing up. One of his best friends died like at a party.
Did they make a movie on this or something? They're making a movie.
Might have been. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a movie coming out.
Yeah.
So I was like watching the trailer for it. He's like, "Oh, my life has been so messed up." Or something.
I didn't open it. I wasn't sure if that was a joke or like a real trailer.
Okay. Maybe it was a joke.
I didn't look at it. I didn't look at it. It might be a real movie. Bro. The point is one of his high school friends died and it really impacted him, like deep depression. At a certain point, you got to just get over it and live on with your life.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's my second.
Okay.
Third. This is one. It's called Into the Wild. There's a really famous horror movie.
Yeah.
It's about this kid, Christopher McCandless. In the 90s, he went to Emory. He was super well educated from a nice Washington D.C. family, and then after he graduated, he always had like a really bad relationship with his parents. After he graduated, he donated all $26,000 to this like hunger charity, whatever. Disappeared. Dumped his car, all his money, burned his money on cash on a pan, and traveled the world like. He named himself Alexander Supertramp. Tramp is like someone who like just homeless and walks around, tramps around the country. Tramp. That's what tramp means. I used to think. I thought it
was like a derogatory.
I used to think it meant something else.
Like you're a tramp, like a hoe.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You know?
I think it just means homeless person or something. That
okay, fair.
And there's like rubber tramps, and then there's like
what the
rubber tramps is like people that drive, and then there's like normal tramps.
The fuck's a rubber tramp?
like the trailer park people that drive, they have rubbers underneath, like car rubbers, wheels.
Okay.
And then there's like actual tramps like him where they hitchhike, right? Okay. Anyway, he went around for 2 years, like journaled it all, and then he went to Alaska to live by himself. Like, you know, that was his final great Alaskan odyssey, his final like destination. And then he couldn't get out. He like ate some wild berries and died.
Yeah, right. And the berries make him go crazy. Right? It was like mushrooms.
It made him starve because it made him, even if he was eating food, he couldn't like digest it. So like he would have starved no matter how much.
Did he like have some survival training before he went out? You think?
Zero. But
he's just a dumbass.
He was a prolific reader. But that's what a lot of people were saying.
Like, bro, like you have to have some kind of like training if you were to go out and do it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So there was an article published about this, and half the people from Alaska were like, "This kid is not a hero. He's like." He's stupid. Like
he's pretty dumb.
Unprepared. He's like just like
he was like
full of himself.
He was like set out for failure.
Right.
That's funny. One of my friends was for his like graduation trip, he drove from like Chicago area throughout the Rocky Mountains, all through like Los Angeles, Pacific Coast. Yeah, Max. And he was in, I forgot where it was like the middle of like Arizona or something. And he had like no cell service. He was there for like 2 or 3 days. And it was just him and his dog in his car. And he was just living out of his car for like basically 3 weeks. And he told me he was going crazy.
Yeah.
He literally came to visit me in LA and shower in like a week. It was like him, his bourbon, his dog, a guitar, and his car. Yeah. And he would just live in the back. And he was like, yeah, it was crazy. And I never really asked him his takeaways, but like I could just tell like when you're isolated that long, like you're just gonna go wild for a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's in our nature to like be in a community with people.
Yeah, I mean that was like a very like mild version of this story, going straight into the wild.
It's funny, like he highlighted in his book before he died, like one of the passages was like happiness is only real when shared. And some people speculate.
I remember that from the movie. I saw that from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The movie was good. It was almost like a silent film.
Yeah, I guess.
But the book's probably a little better.
Yeah, I thought it would be like it was better. There's more details, but the point is like I would agree. I think you need like times of isolation and being in nature, but you have to. People like give you real joy. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like that's pretty good.
I think that's good.
Yeah. So our takeaway from this is books are chill.
Very chill.
And
pick up a couple, read them.
Go read, and implement them in your life and be cool.
But don't read too many of them.
Yeah. Okay. Bang. Done.